What's going on, guys? Chad from Caldwell Painting here. Got another really cool video for you. So you ever walk into the paint store, you're ready to do your project, and you're going to pick your paint, and there is so many different types of paint, right? You've got your big names like Sherwin Williams and Benjamin Moore, but they even have so many products, it's so hard to tell. You've got different contractors telling you different things about different paints and why they like it. Well, today we're going to kind of go through, not all of them, but some of the more popular ones, and talk about the different levels of paint and the application for them when they're good, or if they're not good. So we're going to talk about different price points, different products, and see if we can help you figure out what's going to be best for your home. So starting off down here, we're going to start off at our lower end down here. So we've got things like Ultra Spec by Benjamin Moore, and we've also got ProMar 200 by Sherwin Williams. Now there are a few other products that fall into this line like A100, things of that nature. These right here are going to be really good for apartment complexes, right? You got a renter out of it, you got another one coming in, you're going to have to repaint it after every renter. This is going to be that option. It's not super expensive. It's still going to look okay, but it's not going to perform like some of these other paints that are going to be long lasting. So this is really good for apartment complexes. So if somebody's saying, hey, I want to use this in your really nice home, this is not the paint that you want on your walls for 10, 15, 20 years. Like I said, this is pretty basic apartment complexes, doesn't present color nearly as well, doesn't level out that great, but good enough for apartments. Then we go to a next step, which is something like super paint. Even kind of the Ben line there. So Benjamin Moore has a line called Ben, and that would kind of be the next step up. It's a versatile paint, not super expensive, not the cheapest, and it's versatile, right? It'll work if you're on a pretty tight budget and you need to get it done. This might be a good option for you. They perform okay, but they're not going to be those showstoppers, right? It's not going to be something that you look at and you're like, wow, that presents color so well, leveled out so good, just looks clean. It's not going to be that wow paint, but it'll suffice. Then we go to stuff like duration, and then we also have cashmere here. So cashmere, I like cashmere. It's a good paint. Presents color decently well. It's kind of that middle ground paint, right? It presents color really well, levels out pretty good. Overall, a pretty decent paint. But then we have stuff like duration, which is kind of in line price point, and it's presumed to be one of their higher quality paints. Now this is where having a painter that really knows the chemistry of the paint, that knows the breakdown, how paint reacts, this is where this is extremely important. Because if you go to Sherwin Williams, or if you talk to most contractors, they're going to tell you this is a really good paint, mostly because of the price point, right? Well, what duration does, duration bonds at a molecular level, creating one solid sheet. And in theory, that sounds really good, right? I want my paint to bond. I want it to be one sheet. Well, the issue with that is when it's one sheet, if it gets a chip in it, if it gets a little nick in it, it all wants to come off in one sheet. And guys, I've walked into several homes and seen it happen. They have a sheet peeling off their wall and they're like, I have no idea what's going on. We go up in the attic, we take a look at what was painted with. Sure enough, it was duration. So price point can be extremely misleading, just like with anything else, right? There are things that are overpriced, there are gimmicky stuff, and duration just is one of those products. It's got a pretty high price point for what it is, and it just doesn't perform. I would rather use the Ultra Spec before I'd want to use the duration, even though there's a huge price difference in the two. It just doesn't perform. So make sure when you're talking to your contractor, make sure they understand those things, how the paint reacts, the chemistry of the paint, when it's applicable, when it's not applicable, because not all paints are made equal, right? Some people just stick with super paint and that's what they use for everything, interior, exterior, whatever it may be. But truly understanding how these paints react, the breakdown of them, the chemicals in them, what it takes, that's going to be vital for any painter to ensure that your house is being done properly. So now we're stepping in to some of the nicer stuff, okay? Now this is the stuff, this is what we use more often than anything, which is Regal Select. Now I know you're thinking, well Chad, that seems like it's going to be a really expensive paint. It's not too much more expensive than these two right here, but it performs so much better, right? We love Regal Select. One, for the way it presents color beautifully. Two, it lasts a long time, right? The eggshell finishes, things like that, you can scrub them, you can wash them, they're gonna hold up, and it's gonna present that color well for years to come. So really good, what I like to call middle ground paint, right? So this is kind of where we start our middle ground in this area here, that cashmere duration, and we're kind of going here. So this is kind of our middle ground here, got our lower ends over here. This is what I highly suggest for most people. It's gonna be extremely versatile, it's gonna work in almost every single application. Now, let's say you're wanting that show-stopping piece, right? You want your house to be something people talk about. They see it and they're not even sure what's going on. They just know it looks really good. Well, now we're getting into some of our more expensive paints, but they have different attributes. Okay, so let's talk about those. So Aura. Aura is Benjamin Moore's highest line of interior paint. Now, Aura is a fantastic paint. Does it present color better than Regal Select? Slightly, yeah. Is it worth the price point? Not always, okay? Aura is really cool because, so Aura used to be Aura Bath and Spa, and then you had Aura. They combined it into one, so essentially it's still the same product as the Bath and Spa, and it's really good for high humidity areas. So small bathroom, it doesn't have great insulation, spas, things of that nature, Aura is really good for. It presents color beautifully, but it also has some of those things that's going to help with that moisture. So you small bathrooms, you see the runs in the wall because that moisture is kind of soaking into the paint. Aura is going to help with that. Okay, so if you're having issues with that, Aura is going to be a really great product for you. Or if you just want a really great finish on your home, Aura is going to be the answer there. Now, again, it's going to cost you a little bit more than your Regal Select, definitely a little bit more than down here. I shouldn't say a little bit more, a lot bit more than down here. But if you have the budget to do it, it's worth considering. Now we're getting into some specialty paints, okay? So these are your things that are going to be extremely expensive. These are your things that are going to be $120, $150 a gallon. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Chad, that is absolutely absurd. Why would anyone pay over $100 for a gallon of paint? Well, there's applications for it, and we're going to talk about it. So let's start with General Finishes milk paint. This is one of my favorites, okay? So this is a high solid paint. And when I talk about a high solid paint, going back to these few for a minute, so water-based latex style paints. When they tint it, they're putting different colors in there, right? Some yellow, some red, some blue to make whatever color you've chosen. Well, when you put that into these, all those colors just mix up. Think about putting different food colorings together. All those colors just mix up and give you one color. And that's great, and that's good for most applications. That's what we're looking for, right? We chose the color. That's what we want. Well, with the high solid paint, the best way to describe this is kind of like, think of it being filled with sand. So when you put that color in there, when you put those different colors in there, each grain of sand is going to be able to grab, I'm going to grab green over here. Well, I'm going to grab yellow over here. I'm going to grab blue over here. So you'll get colors like this one's Persian blue. But when you paint it on something, you're going to see that Persian blue. But as you start to turn it and move, you're going to see some of those different colors popping out. You might come over here and it might be a little more yellow. You might come over here, it might be a little more green. Adds a really cool depth to it. Okay, levels out incredible, lasts a very long time. But if you're looking for that showstopper where people look at the wall and they're like, I just don't know what it is, but this looks incredible, that's your milk paint. Okay, it's going to give you such a depth of color, such a warmth in the room. It's really insane. It's hard to describe without seeing it. Now, again, pretty expensive paint. So are you painting your whole house with this? Probably not. What I've seen a lot of people do, though, is pick a room. So right now we're working on one that's going to be a, he's trying to make like a speakeasy, right? He's trying to make like a cool poker area, speakeasy type vibe. And so we're going with a dark gray in the milk paint. But every time you move in that gray, you're going to see so many different colors, greens, blues. Is it going to be a dramatic shift? No, but you're going to notice it. And it's just really cool the way it reacts on walls. So then we've got Faro and Ball. Now, Faro and Ball is one of the more popular kind of specialty paints. A lot of people have heard of it. A lot of people haven't. Now, Faro and Ball, also a high solid paint. So it performs generally like the milk paint. Similarly, give you that depth of color. They have some really unique colors, some really cool things. Now, with these two style paints, they come in their own colors. You don't get these tinted. And the reason being is because if you were to take something like this, let's say you had a straight base or Farrow ball, and you tried to mix the Benjamin Moore or Sherwin Williams colors into it, it's just not going to accept it because chemically it's different, right? We talked about these being water latex bases, so they all kind of swirl together, these being high solids. You got to get their pre-made colors. And that's okay because they have some really great colors, and you know, you can find those online, you can get pamphlets on them, but they do have to be their own colors, and that's okay, but they present those colors so well. And a lot of people think, well, hey, I love a Farrow ball color, I love a milk paint color. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get Aura matched in Farrow ball, or even Regal Select matched in Farrow ball. You can't do it. We have some of the best color matchers around town here that have tried, and you can't do it. And it's not because the person matching the color is not good, it's because the paints are different. Chemically, they're different, so they react differently to those colorants. So if you're going Farrow ball and you're going general finishes, look at their pre-made colors. Now guys, this isn't a comprehensive list. There is a ton of different paints out there. There's a ton of novelty paints out there. Benjamin Moore's got one called ScuffX, and it has its purposes, right? ScuffX is for high traffic areas, a lot of daycares, taekwondo studios, things of that nature where there's a lot of kids bumping into walls, scratching things, hospitals. Really beneficial. We actually have our office painted with it. But it's really beneficial for those high traffic areas. But are you going to put it in your home just to put it in your home? No, because it doesn't finish out as nicely. So when you're talking to your contractor, when you're talking to your painter, make sure they understand this stuff. Make sure they're not just using a paint because that's what they use. Why are they using that paint? Why do they think it's applicable for your home? Not every home's the same. Not every person's the same. Not every budget's the same. So why are they choosing Super Paint? Why are they choosing Cashmere? Why are they choosing Regal Select? Ask them those questions because they should be able to answer it, right? This is our craft, and we need to understand our craft to a high level. So we take a lot of time. We talk to our reps to ensure that we understand how these paints work, where they're best used, and what's going to be best for your home. So like I said, there's a ton of other different paints out there. You got PPG, you've got the Home Depot lines of Behr, Valspar, all that. Now guys, just to hit on those for a second, those paints are made for DIYers, okay? They're formulated in a way, because DIYers, they work a little bit slower than a professional does. They're using different tools than a professional does. So things like Behr and all that, they have really great advertising. So they come off as being really great paints because they're advertising, they're backed by things like Home Depot and Lowe's, so they have that money to spend on advertising. But if you have a professional coming to your home that wants to use Behr or Valspar or something like that, that's probably a big red flag there, okay? And I know you're saying, well, I picked a Behr color. These can be matched in those Behr colors. Not these, but these can be matched in those Behr colors. And Benjamin Moore has some really amazing color matching technology. They can get it spot on. We've had instances where somebody just absolutely wanted to use Behr, wanted to use Valspar. We can go order 5 gallons of the same color of Behr, Valspar, and you gotta understand, this is not their fault, but the guys at Home Depot, the guys at Lowe's, they're not paint guys, they're just guys that work at Home Depot, work at Lowe's. So when it comes to mixing the paint, it is a science, and they're not fully trained on it. It's not their fault, but they're just not fully trained on it because it's not a niche thing for Home Depot. They just do a lot. So we've gone and gotten 5 gallons of Behr in the same color, and almost every single one of them's slightly different in color. Now, I'm not saying if you're just doing a small project, painting a wall or painting a small room by yourself, that you can't use Behr or Valspar. And everyone has a budget, so we're all trying to stick within a budget. But a professional should be using something that's on this table. Again, they should also know why they're using it. So ask your painter, ask your contractor, period, no matter what you're getting done in your home, why are you using those materials? What's special about that material versus this material? Because if they can't answer that, again, we've got another big red flag there because they don't know their craft. And guys, when it comes to paint, you'd be shocked how much of the chemical breakdowns you need to know, how it responds to different things. Some of these say they can go on metal, but we know dang well, I ain't putting it on metal because it ain't gonna last, okay? you got to understand that the paint stores, they're trying to sell paint, okay? So if they can claim it, they're going to claim it. Doesn't always mean that it's going to be what actually needs to be used for it to be done correctly. And now again, I'll say it again, we're all on a budget, but talk to your contractor, refer to our videos, guys. That's why we do these things. We do these things to educate you guys, because there's so much about paint that people don't know. A lot of people just think paint is paint, and that's just simply not true. So we're here to educate you so that when you go buy your own paint, when you have a contractor come to your home, you're equipped. Knowledge is power. And if you know the questions to ask and what to look for, you're going to have a higher probability that your job's going to be done the way you were looking for and that your home's going to be protected. Guys, that's a big thing here at Caldwell Painting, is that we're taking care of your home the way you want to be taken care of. And I think you want any contractor that walks in your home to have the same attitude. So, guys, watch these videos, learn about it. If you got an upcoming painting project, learn these products, rewatch it a couple times if you need to, just to get the little details down. Ask those contractors. And guys, if you ever need any advice, anything of that nature, guys, shoot us a message. We'd be happy to help you out, give you some advice on what needs to be used, what doesn't need to be used, and if the contractor is leading you in the right direction. But guys, that's all we got today. Thank you guys for joining us. Remember to follow our page, like this video, and subscribe so you guys get notifications. Thanks for joining us. What's going on, guys? Chad from Caldwell Painting here. Can't start off like that.